So I was watching the Oscars last week, and she really got me back on my gay agenda. Not that I am ever not trying to recruit heterosexuals into the homosexual lifestyle, but this little aspect, this part 7 of my 70 stage plan, she woke up, girl. She did. That is proving that Gelphie is and will always be real.
Just you and I defying gravity's down. To those who ground me, take a message back from me.
Now, as much as that will keep me fed for at least the next week, sadly, miserably, sorrowfully, mournfully, gloomily, wistfully, dismally, that is the last time we are going to see these two together for at least the next 6 months. So in the meantime, let's fast forward to November and speculate.
This summer, from the makers of The Fast and the Furious. It's just like the Vin Diesel version, except slightly gayer.
Maybe a little too fast, a little too furious. Okay, let's just get into it, shall we? She obviously still loves her, romantically or not. Why would she be punishing her by making her live out the rest of her life with neither of the people who she trusted the most in the world, thinking that her best friend has died and that her fiance has been tortured to death in a cornfield? I get that it's bittersweet, but my god, this is still a kids' movie. Can we not have a little lightheartedness, please? It's good to see me, isn't it? Now, in my first Wicked video, which thank you guys so much for the response that I got for that. It was wild. Cannot believe it's at 12,000 views now. And thank you so much for everyone who's subscribed. I hope that you like what I'm going to do with the channel. This is probably going to be my last kind of Wicked adjacent video for a while, unless anyone would really like to hear me talk about something else, and let me know because I love to hear it. Thinking I have a little Sex and the City video in the pipeline. I also have one about Dylan O'Brien and possibly like a retrospective on Steric from Teen Wolf, which personally, you don't even want to know how obsessed I was with Teen Wolf back in the day. It's embarrassing. If anybody is going to do a deep dive on the ridiculousness that was Steric back in the day, it's gonna be me. So, you know, look out for that one. We'll see. I do have a little bit of a habit, as you may have seen, of being like, I'm gonna do this video next, and then being like, I'm gonna do something completely different. Because as I mentioned in another video, I do have undiagnosed ADHD, and look, I go where the wind takes me. So thank you again for joining me on this journey. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I think it's going to be very fun. Now, for anybody who didn't see my first Wicked video, basically I went over part 1, the first movie, what I thought worked, what I thought didn't, and most importantly, how gay Elphaba and Glinda are for one another. And in this video, I am going to talk about Wicked Part 2. So mostly I'm going to be talking about what happens in the musical, what I think will stay the same in the movie, what I predict may change. Now, these predictions are almost exclusively based on the gay little thoughts in my head, so we will see. But personally, I think I might be right about all of them, because I just, you know, I come from a film background. I did study media. I did work in TV for a long time. I just think I knew these things. And also, I just want to be right. So let's see. Maybe we'll return in a year or so once the movie is out and I can be like, no, did I get any of these predictions right? Maybe I did. We will see. Now, if you have any predictions of your own about what you think is going to happen in part 2, please put them down in the comments. Maybe you are going to listen to some of my predictions and be like, that's stupid. I don't think that's going to happen. Put that down there too. I want to know. Sometimes, you know, I will be totally honest with you. There have been some comments from those last videos where like, yeah, you're disagreeing with me, but I'm like, you guys are smart. I like agree with a lot of the things you say. And personally, I prefer to be told that I'm wrong and to then like learn from that, grow from that, because, you know, growth mindset, baby. I'm all for it. Now, we left Glinda and Elphaba and the others, fiyero, whatever, at the end of part 1. They have just sung Defying Gravity. Elphaba has asked Glinda to leave with her. Glinda has said no, not verbally. They have had a conversation with their eyeballs. They have felt sadness. They have felt love, I feel. They have decided that they must part. Now, I have gone to see Wicked, the first one, 4 times now, and, you know, look, on the 4th viewing, I did say to myself partway through, 4 times may have been too many. And then Defying Gravity came on, and I had goosebumps all over, and I was like, it's never too many. Actually, I would watch this movie once a week until the day I die. It's so good. I continue to be obsessed with it. I continue to be obsessed with Elphaba. I continue to be obsessed with Glinda. I just think it's amazing. When Cynthia Erivo sings, my heart soars, and I think I become a better person just through the power of her voice and hearing it through my ears. She's amazing. Ariana Grande, so funny. And I want to put their faces together like 2 little Barbie dolls and make them kiss. So, look, what I'm saying is, am I still obsessed with Wicked? Yes. Do I have more thoughts? Yes. I'll try not to go too much into what I think of the movie again, because look, I've done it for 90 minutes already. You can go back and see that video if you haven't watched it already. But I did have a thought again when I watched it for the 4th time. Something kind of occurred to me. I already sort of knew this, but I was like, oh, this kind of like clicks for me in a way that it didn't necessarily before. When they are looking at each other, and Elphaba says to her, come with me, and Glinda doesn't respond verbally, but you see that they've had this conversation with their eyes, that they are like, she knows that Glinda has said no. And, you know, she gets the cloak and it's all very beautiful and blah, blah, blah. I think I spoke about this in the first video, that I think that the whole concept of like Glinda being just like, you know, purely bad. I know that a lot of people like to villainize her, and they like to think that the reason that she said no was just because she wanted this kind of like easy life or whatever. But, you know, you can go and see my video, or maybe I will insert it into here, the argument that I made about, you know, how really what it is that they had the realization that like Glinda's power is in her social capital, Elphaba's is in her magic. Neither of them are particularly useful figures in what they do in the kind of spheres where like they could work together at the same time. If Glinda left with Elphaba, she would become functionally useless. She's not magically powerful. She can't really do anything with Elphaba if she's on the run. If Elphaba stays, she's not very good at the whole social game thing. She is extremely powerful magically, so if she leaves, she can do more. And, you know, if they work together in tandem, look what they can do, you know? I don't think it necessarily works out in the way that they are hoping that it does, but I do think that that was possibly the original idea. And the way that they are kind of teary and crying about it is not about them being like, we're on 2 sides. It's them being like, this is the only way that we can work together, and this is the only way that I can help you for Glinda, is to be like, I can stay here and I can try and like maintain the narrative. Whether she did that correctly, you know, we know that she didn't, but like that was the original plan, I feel. And I feel like, yeah, watching it for the 4th time, I saw that moment with the 2 of them looking at each other as like, it's very clear that they both knew that in the moment. That's what they were communicating with each other silently. They know each other well enough at this point that that was all communicated for them. And so, you know, it's not super obvious. We're not getting that like in the kind of extremely explicit way. It's not in dialogue, but I think that that's kind of what happens. Anyway, so this is where we leave them at the end of part 1, the first film, is they are kind of on these opposite sides. Elphaba flies into the air. She sings the end of Defying Gravity. It's amazing. I get shivers. I cry. You know, the usual. And then we finish with her zooming off into the sunset and Glinda crying. And once again, I hold the hand of whoever I am sitting there watching it with, and I say, that was the best movie I've ever seen in my life. Curtains come down, and I spend the rest of the week listening to the soundtrack. Okay, so that's where we left off. Now, what is going to happen in the second film? Now, Part 2, Wicked for Good, that is coming out end of the year, which is very exciting. So I have some thoughts, predictions, and possible gay theories. So let's go into them. Now, I think that most people will agree that Wicked Act 2 is kind of narratively weaker than Act 1. So I'm, first of all, very interested to see if they I think they will. They're going to tighten stuff up. They have longer to work with because, I think this is why I'm actually really glad that they split it into 2 films. I think that this gives them an opportunity to really lengthen scenes in part 2. I think it gives them a chance to add some scenes, maybe kind of play with some of the relationships a little bit more, not just Glinda and Elphaba's. I think that they have an opportunity here to really tighten up the narrative, and I am excited to see that. Now, the title of the film is Wicked for Good, and if anybody doesn't know, obviously in the musical it's just Act 1, Act 2. For Good, for anyone who hasn't seen it, or listened to the songs, For Good is the for me, emotional turning point of Act 2. It's huge. It's so sad. It's so gay. I, when reading the lyrics out in the video that I made, cried a little bit because I was very hormonal, but also it's a really sad and beautiful song. It's basically the point, I won't go into it too much, but it's basically the point kind of near the end of the musical where Elphaba and Glinda finally are reunited, and we see them kind of soften with each other. Elphaba says, that she has realized that she is limited in what she can do, and that Glinda has this kind of power that she doesn't have. Glinda also says the same, and basically they are kind of mourning the fact that they haven't been able to kind of continue their friendship and relationship in the way that they would want to, but the fact of them having known one another has changed them fundamentally for good. And it's really beautiful, it's really romantic, it's really sad, and I just think it's very interesting that that is the title that they have used for the movie. I mean, I think that we already know the filmmakers have made it very clear that they understand that Elphaba and Glinda's relationship is the core of the show, the core of the film. But this is really front loading that to make sure that we really understand. I mean, For Good is the kind of culmination of their character arcs in terms of their relationship. So I just think it's very interesting that that is the choice that they made for the title. The Gelphie relationship, whether or not you think it's romantic, is the core of the show. This is the reason for everything. They're putting it right at the front to be this is where we're heading to. We are heading to For Good. And once again, they're showing that more than anything, definitely more than Fiyero, Glinda and Elphaba are it. So I do think that I would be delusional if I was to say that I think that they will have an explicitly romantic moment. I don't think it's going to be Gelphie Endgame, unfortunately, but I do think that they are going to lean more into showing that this is really the core relationship, and the Fiyero stuff is kind of secondary. Fingers crossed. But I think that at the very least, we are seeing that the filmmakers understand how important this relationship is, and they are signposting the importance of it by naming the film For Good. Now, a kind of just brief sidebar. So in terms of some of the unseen scenes that we have seen in the trailer or leaks or whatever that haven't appeared in the first film, so we know that they have to be in the second one, we know that there's going to be a scene with Dorothy and her friends in front of the wizard, which doesn't happen in the musical. And so I do think that there's going to be more of Dorothy in the film, which I am excited for. I think that it will be quite fun to see what they do with that. I would really like to see more kind of expanded scenes with her and the crew, because as we know, or spoiler alert if you don't know, Fiyero is the Scarecrow and Boq is the Tin Man, and of course the lion is the cub that they saved midway through the movie. So I just think that there's such an opportunity for there to be like more kind of interaction, and like I think that because of the extended nature of the film, I just think it's likely that that's going to happen. Also, because we've seen Alicia Weir, who we're pretty sure is going to be playing Dorothy at a lot of the premieres, I just think it's likely that we're going to have more scenes with her in them. Because she's a theatrical actress, because, you know, she was in Matilda, she's a singer, we know that she has the voice. I just think it would be weird if they had her in that role and they didn't give her any singing parts. So I really think that she's going to get. I don't think she'll get a whole song because we do know that the new songs are going to be one for Glinda and one for Elphaba. But I do think that she might be inserted into one of the songs, or like one of the songs might be extended and then she'll be in it, which I think will be really cool. So I'm excited for that. I also think that we're going to see a lot more of the Wizard of Oz in the film. So, like, I reckon we're going to see the tornado. I think we're going to see the house landing. I think we're going to see Nessarose's death. I really hope that we are going to see Glinda interacting with Dorothy in that kind of like initial scene where she comes and like introduces Dorothy to the Munchkins and she gives her the shoes and all of that. I think that that would be really interesting to see when we know kind of like the backstory of everything, because I would be really interested to see how Ariana plays that. Like, is she going to play that in a way where like we're seeing that Glinda is like regretful of any of it? Will we be able to see like her react to what she's done to Nessarose? I just think that that would be like such an interesting scene. So I am like really hopeful that that is going to happen. I also am really hoping that we're going to see kind of more definitively how long passes between part 1 and part 2, because in the book I think it's like 17 years. That might be wrong, but it's a significant amount of time. Like, it's at least a few years. That's not super well signposted in the musical, and I think it would just be really interesting if we see kind of more of that. I would really, really love it as well if we see Elphie actually like with the animals and helping the animals, because again, we don't really see that in the musical. It's just kind of like signposted with the Wicked Witch of the West song, which is just the No One Mourns the Wicked reprise. And it's just signposted by the fact that they like talk about her having been like taken in by these like evil animals or whatever. So I'm really hoping that we're seeing that. I think that there was a like a scene that was like either in the trailer or one of the leaked scenes of Elphie in a kind of like yellow forest, like yellow trees and stuff. So I'm thinking that that will probably be where she's either like trying to find somewhere to go and like live, or she's like escaping from something. And I think that maybe that will be where we see her kind of interacting with the animals, because I always did think it was a bit weird that they like pulled the animal subplot so much out of the musical, even though that's like such an important part of the book and it's kind of the reason that everything happens. So like, it's another reason why I think the kind of narrative tension like loses itself a little bit in the musical. Now, if you've been watching so far, thank you so much, and I would super appreciate it if you would give me a little subscribe and a like. The subs in particular would really help me because I'm trying to get monetized. I'm quite close to the watch time hours, thanks to all of you wonderful people watching the first Wicked video. If you did, thank you so much. And yes, you need like 1,000 subscribers, which is, I realize, is probably kind of crazy to expect when I only have 3 videos, but I think that that would be really fun and cool if I could reach it soon. Obviously wanting to do more gay media analysis. I love me some gay media analysis, and if there's anything that you would like to see, let me know and I might make it. Anyway, back to what we were discussing earlier, i.e. the gay shit in Wicked. So yes, so we start off with the No One Mourns the Wicked reprise. Brilliant. So Glinda and Morrible hold a press release to announce that Glinda is going to be engaged to Fiyero, or has been engaged. And then we get Thank Goodness, which I am very excited for. The way that Ariana played her kind of like despair and, you know, torn grief, etc. in No One Mourns the Wicked, I just feel like For Goodness is going to be amazing. So excited for that, and kind of excited to see like really how they play that. I feel like that will be fun. I think that I just have a feeling that it's going to be a bit more like emotional than it's played in the musical. I think that like we know that it is being played in a kind of darker tone than the musical is, like we've already been told that, and that Wicked Part 2 is going to be darker than Part 1. So I just think that there's going to be like a kind of a darker, kind of like more punchy emotional sort of thing with Thank Goodness. So fingers crossed for that. I just feel like it's gonna be gayer because it's darker and sadder, and I'm excited for Glinda's like closeted lesbian vibes. Also, I just want to make a very quick point because I know that there are, you know, a lot of Glinda haters. I'm sure, like, probably at this point, if you've watched my first video and if you're watching this one, you're unlikely to be a Glinda hater because, I mean, if it hasn't become clear by now, like, this is a Gelphie stan account, and like, I love my problematic lesbians, so I am not gonna sit here and let you throw dirt on my girl's name. But I do think it's really interesting the response that you see for Glinda versus Fiyero in this kind of like section of the musical. Um, because often, you know, Glinda gets a lot of hate for having like, you know, taken the easy path and wanting the sort of social capital and all of that kind of stuff, and that like therefore that she's like evil and blah blah blah. Um, when I do think it is more complex than that. And I'm not saying that she is perfectly right and morally upright. I think that she's a great character. We know that that's kind of the whole point of the musical. But I do think it's really interesting that people give a huge free pass to Fiyero, who is kind of doing the same thing, but everybody's like, no, but he has his reasons, it's different, and like, you know, he joined the guards because just purely because he wanted to like find Elphaba. But the reality of the situation is he had a lot of opportunities where he could have left without any consequences, in fact, to go and find Elphaba, and he could have gone to like help her with the animals. And he didn't. And I mean, he goes along with the engagement to Glinda. We know he's not happy about it, but like neither is she. I just think that it's really interesting. I personally believe it is a case of fandom misogyny where we're all too willing to kind of like haloify the male characters and be like, but he's just a baby. He doesn't really know what he's doing. And like, he's, you know, he has no brain. So like, he's just trying to like go with the flow and blah, blah. We know that he's a shallow character. Does that make it fine? Glinda's the exact same. We know that she's a shallow character too, and she grows, as does Fiyero. I'm not saying I hate Fiyero. I don't think that like he's bad for having done all of this, because I think that like he's complicated too, less complicated than the girls, because we don't get a chance to see like who he really is. Personally, I feel. But this is, you know, one of the other reasons why I think it's interesting that like people question why people prefer the Gelphie ship, when to me, I think that, you know, Fiyero and Elphaba's relationship is more of the kind of like insta love in some ways, and like it's the kind of Marius cassette thing in Les Mis. It's very like sweet, easy, oh, I'm obsessed with you and I would die for you kind of thing, when it's like we haven't been given any evidence of like why you're so committed to each other. Like I understand like later on in Act 2, Fiyero shows his commitment, but like why should we care about it early on? Like he hasn't really shown any of that, whereas Glinda and Elphaba, it's like we have seen them literally grow as a like pairing relationship, whether or not you think it's romantic, from like, you know, hating each other to like understanding one another, showing that they like understand one another in such a way that they would be willing to go out of their way to like help one another. And like, you know, I mean, you could even argue like that whole scene at the ballroom where Fiyero is like, wow, she's like doesn't care what anybody thinks. One, he clearly doesn't understand who she is, whereas Glinda does. And also like he could have stepped in, he could have done something, he doesn't. And I think that that goes to show that actually like Glinda is the more important party in that. But anyway, that's just my little rant once again. But anyway, I just wanted to say, like, I think that it's interesting that the kind of reaction that you get from the fandom around Fiyero, particularly in this sort of scene where we're announcing Glinda and Fiero's relationship, is a kind of like, poor baby Fiyero, he like doesn't want this at all. And to be like, Glinda's an evil bitch. And it's like, have you been watching? Like, do you know kind of what is actually happening here? Or are you just giving a free pass to the guy because he's like cute? I mean, yes, I love Jonathan Bailey, but I'm just gonna say, like, I just think it's interesting. I just think it's very interesting. Anyway, I have gotten 2 songs in, so let's try and like make this a little faster. I was like, I'm gonna make shorter videos because I should probably stop talking for so long, and editing it takes a really long time. And let's see, because I am concerned about how much I've gone through already, which is not much. Okay, so we have the townspeople have been like, oh my god, Elphaba is the worst, she's wicked. We have everybody going, Glinda, you're the best, and the announcement of the engagement. Meanwhile, Elphaba is like seeking refuge. She comes to Munchkinland to find Nessarose, who has become the governor of Munchkinland since her father's death. Nessa kind of criticizes Elphaba for not having helped her by using her powers. Quick pause to just say, Nessarose, my god, does she suck. What a terrible sister. We can see why Nessarose is also called wicked. She's obviously not a great leader. She has kind of enslaved all the munchkins. Not great, not a great look. And she has also enslaved Bok, although she's acting as if this is like a, you know, relationship. And doesn't give a shit about the animals, and is basically like, I know that you have like suffered all of your life, and these powers kind of like are really difficult for you, and you're like a fugitive from the law, and you're trying to help an oppressed species, and everything's pretty shit for you, but how dare you not help me in my hour of need? Your sister, who has never, ever stood up for you. And I hate it. So anyway, now I think this is going to be a really amazing opportunity to change something which is pretty problematic in the musical. There's a pretty ableist scene where Nessarose, one, sings about how much she hates her wheelchair. I'm really like so sure that they're going to change the lyrics of that. Marissa Bode, the actress who plays Nessarose, has been really vocal about how she found that scene like pretty shit and ableist, which like 100%, and that she was able to talk to the filmmakers a lot, and that they have like changed. I think she referred to it as changed a pivotal scene, and I think it's pretty clear that this is the scene that is going to be changed. It's unclear how. I am really, really excited to see how they do it. I have heard some kind of like ideas around what they might do. And for anybody who doesn't know, first of all, disclaimer, I do not have a physical disability. So please correct me if I am like wrong about anything, or if I say anything that is offensive, please call me out. And I apologize in advance if I do. I really hope I won't. But as far as I'm aware, and as far as like any people I know who have physical disabilities, have spoken about that, like mobility aids are not seen as this like oppressive thing. It's actually freedom. And so the idea of like having this kind of, particularly the lyrics, I think, where Nessarose talks about how much she hates her wheelchair and that it's this like awful thing. I think that the lyrics will almost definitely be changed. And so in the musical, Elphaba enchants Nessarose's shoes, which like makes her able to walk, which obviously is quite problematic. The idea that you're like fixing somebody, and that like fixing a disability is like a good thing, and that is what all people with disabilities would want. And so there's some kind of icky stuff that is in that. I think especially now that we know that Marissa Bode has spoken to the filmmakers about that, I think definitely that's going to change. It'd be really interesting to see what they actually do with it. I have seen some ideas around what people think might happen. I quite like the idea that they might still enchant the shoes, but make it so that they teleport Nessarose. And so the teleportation thing, I think, is kind of a callback to obviously Dorothy being able to use them to go back home. So I think that could be interesting. There's also the possibility that maybe they'll make her be able to fly, so maybe she would fly within the wheelchair still. I think that could be really cool. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with that. I think that this will be really cool, and like such a good opportunity to actually like listen to the community and maybe just like change some things up, because times have changed, and we know that that is like pretty problematic. And I just think it's also really amazing that we do have an actress who's playing Nessarose who is an actual wheelchair user, because I don't think that the musical has ever had a wheelchair user play that part before. So it's like uh, such a sign of like why it's so important to have people who have lived experience play these kinds of roles, because they understand the reality of their lived experience and they can talk about why things are like inaccurate or problematic or hurtful or whatever. And so I just think that that's really exciting, and I'm like really excited to see what they do with that. Also, I just like wanted to point out, because I think that this could be really interesting, is that in the book, Glinda is actually the one who enchants the shoes to make it so that Nessarose can walk. And so I wonder whether they may even kind of like do a callback to that, because it's just like it's so interesting. I saw someone else made a comment. I'll see if I can figure out who it was, because I've just watched a lot of stuff and like read a lot of things on Reddit, so I can't remember exactly where I heard this. But um, someone else said that they thought what might happen is that like Elphie might uh, kind of do it in a way where she does try, maybe she does magic Nessarose's shoes so that they make her walk, but it's like not something that Nessarose actually wanted, and that's like a kind of a sign of how like far their relationship has like shifted, so that she doesn't understand what Nessarose wants anymore, that she is kind of like putting on her these sort of like this sort of like ableist rhetoric of like, surely this is what you want and I will help you, and the reality of it actually being not what Nessarose wants. That could be really interesting. I mean, still obviously quite problematic, but like there could be an interesting conversation around that, and like then the sort of anger that Nessarose has towards Elphaba being like a bit more understandable around why then she like blames her for the Bok thing. I mean, I will say, as much as I love Marissa, as you know, I don't like Nessarose. Obviously, you separate the art from the artist in this case, but I do think it'll be interesting to see if they kind of like give her more reasoning behind being such an asshole, because at the moment she kind of like the way that she reacts to Elphaba and like blames her for everything is, we do know that she is a character who is quite selfish, and like that's kind of how she's grown up. It like, her father gave her everything that she wanted, and she's seen Elphie being sort of treated badly throughout her whole childhood in service to her, and clearly like thinks that that is just sort of the way that life is, and that sucks and is the worst, and it sucks that she hasn't like grown beyond that, but this could be an interesting sort of like thing where you go, oh, okay, well, in this case, it kind of is true that Elphie did the wrong thing. And so her anger towards her is sort of deserved a little bit. And that can be interesting to just give her a little bit more nuance, because I think at the moment, Nessarose is someone who, like, I personally am just like, she kind of just sucks. Whereas, like, this could give her a little bit more agency and or something. And not necessarily to say that that's the only way that that could happen, because I think that obviously there's all sorts of different ways that that could happen. But I would really like to see her given a little bit more grey, because at the moment she's pretty black and white to me. So now after this scene happens in the musical, Bok appears, who is at this point Nessarose's servant, and basically Nessarose has like kind of one of the reasons that she has fully enslaved Munchkinland in the way that she has and made sure that people can't leave is so that Bok will not leave, because she is worried that if he's allowed to leave, he will leave her and that they will no longer be able to have this relationship. Now, when he appears, Nessarose, who at this point is able to walk, obviously, again, this will probably change, but in the musical, she is like, oh my God, this is the reason that we were never able to be together, but now I can walk and we can be together. Aren't you excited? And Bok is like, oh my God, Nessa, I am actually so excited for you. This is great. And she's like, amazing, you love me. And he's like, no. The reason I'm excited is because now you are like self-sufficient, which ableist as fuck. But he's like, now I can go and tell Glinda that I love her because I've just heard that she is engaged to Fiyero and I need to go and tell her. And Nessarose is like, what the fuck did you just say to me? She is pissed off. And so she grabs the grimory, which has been left out by Elphaba for some reason, and Nessarose grabs it. She like can't read it, and does some real bad magic and basically is like trying to do something to make Box stay. And instead of whatever it is that she's trying to do, she like shrinks his heart, and it starts shrinking so much that it's going to disappear and he's going to die. So she calls for Elphie and she's like, please, you have to help. I don't want him to actually die. Please, please, please. Oh my God, save him. So Elphie comes out and using the groomery, she's not really sure what she's doing either. This is just like another one of those signs of like poor Elphie trying to do the right thing and not knowing what she's doing and kind of fucking it up, and then everybody getting the wrong impression. But anyway, she casts a spell to make it so that he doesn't need his heart to live because she's not sure how to reverse it. You can't reverse any spells from the grimoire, right? She casts a spell, he turns into all tin, that is the Tin Man. So he like passes out from the pain, and when he comes to, Elphie has left, and Nessarose is like, it was her, she did it, because she is a bitch. And so poor Elphie, once again, even though she just tried to save this guy's life and did, she is blamed for the fact that he is this like hideous Tin Man. Now, I personally think that this scene is also going to be really interesting because the way that they lent into the body horror for the monkeys getting their wings, 100% they are going to do that with the Bock and Fiyero transformations. Like, fingers crossed. I'm like all down for the body horror. I think it's going to be amazing. They kind of do it off screen, obviously, because like how are you supposed to show that happening on Broadway? But I'm really interested to see this. Like, we're going to see like his skin just like turning into tin. Is it going to be like a kind of, because I think in the book it's like he gets all of his like limbs cut off like one by one, and then they're like replaced by tin, and like that's how he becomes a Tin Man. So I'm like, are his like limbs gonna fall off? Are we gonna see them like sprout out? Is it like, could be sick, and sick in a cool way. So I'm excited for that. Also because I hate Bach and I'm down to see him suffer a little bit. And does that make me a psychopath? Maybe a little bit. So now Elphie has run off. She goes to the Emerald City to go and find the rest of the winged monkeys so that she can free them. While she's there, she runs into the wizard and he sings the song Wonderful to her, and he tries to convince her that actually they can work together and that he will like make everything great and that she can like return to society and it'll all be fantastic, it'll all be wonderful. And she's like almost swayed by it. And then she sees Dr. Dillamond being kept in a cage and she realizes how fucked up the wizard is, and she's like, bitch, I'm out. Now, interesting, we have seen in some of the leaked scenes that Glinda is dancing with the wizard. And so I think Glinda is going to be there in this scene. And I wonder if maybe we will get Glinda being the one to kind of try and convince Elphaba to stay, and that will be the thing that like nearly turns her. And I'm excited for that. I think that would be fun, and it'll be really sad or when it doesn't work out, and if it feels like maybe Glinda knew about Dr. Dillamond. I mean, what if she does? It will definitely make her more on the like black side of the, you know, black and white, grey. And then, of course, we get the betrayal scenes, more betrayal scenes. So Elphaba rejects his offer, she goes to escape, and then she runs into Fiyero. He confesses his love for her, they run off together. This all happens during Glinda and Fiyero's engagement party. So Glinda sees this, she's like brokenhearted because she's like, the two people I trust most in this world, the people I was hoping to end up in a throuple together, have just left me high and dry. And she sings I'm Not That Girl reprise. Amazing, very sad. I wonder whether we are actually going to get, instead of the engagement party, because we have seen Glinda in her wedding dress and it's like very, very wedding-y, we've also seen her speaking to Elphie in her wedding dress. I wonder whether that will be before Wonderful and before that scene with the wizard, or I mean, it can't be afterwards. So I feel like it has to be. And that maybe then, so that maybe they'll have like a little conversation and it'll be really like heartfelt. And then she'll like go into the wizard and then, yeah, that'll all happen and it'll be really sad. Anyway, I digress, but I think the fact that she's in her wedding dress, I reckon instead of an engagement party, they're going to have like, they're upping the drama a little bit. It's going to be the wedding, and Elphie is interrupting the wedding. Maybe she's even like purposefully interrupting the wedding. Maybe she's like, I'm here to like say I object and take Fiyero off with me. A lot of people are sort of like, about her kind of betraying Glinda by like stealing her man or whatever, because they're like, there was just an engagement and it wasn't a real engagement, whatever. If we have them at the wedding, like leaving Glinda at the altar, it does make the sting a little bit harder, and like that humiliation of leaving Glinda to like wait at the altar for a like groom who's never coming. Um, that's not how weddings work, isn't it? The groom is usually the altar. Anyway, but if she's left without being able to like go to the altar, I don't know. I don't know how straight weddings work. Um, that would be humiliating. And so I'm like, I feel like that could be interesting, because then we kind of get a little bit more of a like, we really understand why Glinda then acts the way that she does later on. Whereas I think people kind of like often give a bit of a like free pass to Elphie for this, even though it is shit. Like, she did betray Glinda in ways that Glinda has also betrayed her. So I'm not saying that like she's the worst for it, but like I do think it'd be interesting if they like up the drama. I think that they're going to. I can't imagine why they would have Ariana in the wedding dress otherwise. Some people have speculated that it might be like a dream sequence, but she's in the wedding dress in the scene where Elphie like lands on the balcony and they talk. So I just think it makes sense that they would be doing that during the wedding. Also, I just think like the angst of, at least for me, even if I'm just reading into it, I don't care. The idea that you are like at your wedding, you're getting married to this guy that you don't really love, but like, the optics, whatever. And then he is stolen from you, not only by your friend, but by the girl you actually love, and the two of them run off together. Oh, the angst potential. Oh, amazing. Also, it being the first time that she's seeing Elphaba in like years, and then this like huge betrayal from the two people that she trusts the most. I love it. Now, Glinda usually sings the reprise of I'm Not That Girl here. I think it's really unlikely that that is all it's going to be. Now, we know that Glinda is getting a new song as well as Elphaba. I just think that this would make sense to have Glinda's new song here. We have like extended time frame. It would make sense. We've also had like quite a gap between the first movie and the second one, although of course most of us will be watching the first one before we go into the cinemas, I assume. But technically we've had like a year to wait between movie one and movie two, and so it's not the same as when like we've just seen I'm Not That Girl when we're sitting in the theater, and like after the intermission we've come back and we get the reprise like 20 minutes later or whatever. This is like a year's break, so we might not feel the same kind of connection to the reprise, which is pretty short. Like it's only, a verse or something, I think. And I also just think it's like, it's not that interesting to have that as the reprise. Like this is like a big emotional moment, like the betrayal scene. So I personally think that it will be a new song. I kind of wonder whether they will lean into like maybe doing a call forward to for good, and maybe having it like, personally I'm like, could they have her sort of show her confusion about who she really wants? Maybe it won't even be about Fiyero at all, because as we know, she doesn't really love Fiyero, she's a closeted lesbian. But I'm like, at the very least, what if it's kind of like, yeah, like you're leaning into the betrayal of like your friend has taken off with this man who you're supposed to marry, and she's also like possibly just had this scene where she's like fucked up in front of the wizard and like not being able to get Elphie to stay. Maybe the Dr. Dillerman thing did have more to do with her than like it did in the musical. So maybe she's like super torn here, and she's like, I wish I could have done more for Elphie. I wish I could have like been a better person. And like you have the call forward of being like, because she like changed my life, she changed me so much, but I wasn't able to like be there for her. I just think that could be really good. Showing her confusion for who she really wants, but not being able to have either of them. I love it. Sad femme lesbian. It's just, if you can't tell, I really relate to Glinda. And I love her a lot. Now, in the midst of all of this, obviously post betrayal, Madame Morrible gets Glinda at her lowest, and she's like, we need to capture Elphaba. How are we going to do it? And Glinda, in her act of huge betrayal, tells Morrible that the one thing that is Elphaba's biggest weakness is Nessarose. Although she doesn't know exactly what Morrible is going to do, it's a horrible thing to do. You don't tell people who are known to be pretty violent and like heartless that your best friend's biggest weakness, particularly if it's a person who could be in great danger. I just think not great. So look, not going to argue for Glinda here. That was a shit move. So Marble brings the hurricane, twister, tornado, whatever we're calling it, with her weather magic. And she brings, of course, the house, which lands on Nessarose and kills her. In the meantime, before all this is kind of happening, or while it's all happening, we cut to Fiyero and Elphaba in the forest. They're basically having musical theatre sex and sing a song. And personally, I kind of hope they cut it, but it's unlikely that they will, obviously. There's still people who are big Fiyero fans. And obviously, as I say again, I do love Jonathan Bailey. I think that he deserves all his flowers. But, like, realistically, the arguments that I'm seeing around, like, what people are hoping is going to happen is that he maybe takes his shirt off. And it's a PG-13 movie, so it's pretty likely. I personally couldn't really care less, and I want to move on. So they're having a grand old time, and then she's like, oh my god, I've got this like spidey sense, something's happening to Nessarose, she's in danger, I have to go. It's unclear where she gets the spidey sense from, and why she knows that her sister is in trouble, but it helps with the plot, so that's fine. So she flies off to help, but she's too late. She arrives. Glinda has already given the shoes to Dorothy. And as I said in the beginning, I'm really hoping that there'll be like more scenes kind of in between all of this. I'm really hoping we'll see Glinda give the shoes to Dorothy and have that conversation, because that doesn't happen in the show. We have like a moment in the show where Glinda is like grieving Nessarose, and then Elphie turns up and they have this like huge fight. And I find the cat fight really not funny. I don't think it's played for laughs. I definitely think that if they do keep it in the show, it will be much more like emotional and kind of dark. But I'm sort of hoping that they change it altogether. I like whether they have I think they'll have an argument of some kind. They'll have like a fight of some kind. But I don't like the way that it's sort of set up. The setup is that it's about the shoes and it's about Fiyero. And like, I get that obviously we have set this up, that these are the things that have kind of been going on. And I get that obviously they're like, the shoes in particular, it's not really about the shoes. It's about the fact that like your sister has died, and that you're on kind of two sides of this war or whatever. So I get that, it's not as clear cut even in the musical as it appears on stage, but I just think that it's a bit weak, and it's a bit like, I just feel like we've grown past it, to be honest, the idea of like two women having a cat fight over a guy. So I think either lean really way more heavily into the fact that it's about Nessarose, and because that is like kind of sidelined, like the shoe thing starts the argument, but what really like the argument is about Fiyero. And I'm just like, I just find that kind of lame. Like, even if I wanted them to be together or like whatever, I just am like, I just think the idea of having these two great female characters fight over a dude, I'm just like, ugh, boo, tomato, tomato, I'm over it. So I am hoping that it's like more of a thing around, maybe we kind of come back to like you were supposed to help me with this stuff, but you didn't. Which, like, also I just think is really interesting because we know that in For Good later, Elphie is going to be like, because Glinda wanted, like, I think this, I know I'm like skipping ahead a little bit, but like we do find out that Glinda like wanted to tell people that Elphaba is not actually wicked. She wanted to tell the truth about Elphaba. I think a lot of people hate Glinda because of this, because they think that like she had the opportunity to like tell people the truth about Elphaba and she didn't, and that that was her choice not to do that because it was like easier or whatever. But the reality is that Elphaba told her not to. So we see that clearly in the beginning of For Good, because Glinda is like, can I please tell people that you are not this like wicked witch? And Elphie is like, it's better if you don't.
Promise me you won't try to clear my name. Elphaba, no! Promise. Alright, I promise, but I don't understand.
That's a side part, I know, but I would find it interesting if they kind of like, if they were a little bit more explicit about like why they're actually angry with each other, why they haven't spoken, why they've maybe like not been able to work together in the way that they were hoping, and like I don't know why Elphaba maybe didn't try to rely more on Glinda, why Glinda wasn't able to like do as much politically as she should have, and like you know, where they've sort of failed each other and themselves. And because I think that like one of the things to remember is that like Elphie also is not as successful in helping the animals as she's hoping to be, and that's why later she becomes kind of so embittered about it, because she's like, I haven't even been able to do anything. And Glinda obviously feels her kind of like pain around the fact that she like has also been pretty useless, and like um yes, she's been this kind of like figure of like, oh yay, like everything's okay and like give the people hope and whatever, but it's all fake. And like also like who gives a shit about the people that she's trying to help and make happy, because they're all like awful and like trying to kill her best friend, so why would she care? But anyway, it's all very complicated. I really hope that they lean more into that, like maybe more of a kind of like about their actual relationship, like why are they actually fighting, like what's the kind of like crux of the betrayal that they feel, and like not just being like, oh, you stole my guy, like who I don't even really care about, like more of a like, you were supposed to be my best friend and where is that gone? We haven't spoken in years, you haven't reached out to me, you haven't done this. And Elphaba being like, neither of you haven't done like what you promised you would in our little unspoken conversation. Like I don't know. I just think that there could be much more interesting dynamics at play in that fight than just to like slapping each other. I just think that's silly, and I would really hate it if that is how that plays out. I also think it could be very interesting because I don't think, as I say, I'm not delusional. I don't think that there will be Gelphie endgame, but I do think that we are really leaning into the idea of Glinda as a closeted lesbian, and I just think it would be so good if we got Glinda maybe subtly, but maybe overtly confessing her love for Elphaba and basically being like, you know, I know that like you know that Fiyero didn't love me and that I didn't love Fiyero, but why would you come and take him instead of me? I wanted to go with you. I know I said no in the past, but if anybody's going to go with you, if anybody is going to go with you, it should be me. And for Elphie to be like, to turn her down, and like maybe that is the reason they have the argument. That would be great. I would love it. I mean, I'd be really sad and I would cry a lot, but I would love that. So in the midst of this, what happens in the stage play is that the palace guards then capture Elphie during this, and then Fiyero flies in on a vine like Tarzan and holds Glinda ransom basically, and is like, let go of the green girl or otherwise I'll shoot Glinda. And everyone's like, ooh, okay. And so Elphie leaves. There's also like a, I do think, nice little moment, it's very short, but like where we do see that when Fiyero is like, go, go, and Elphie's like, I'm not going without you, to Fiyero, that Glinda like throws her hat and she's like, go. And I think that's nice, because we can see that like despite everything, even though they've just had this huge fight, that ultimately Glinda does just care about Elphie's safety. And I will give Elphie a free pass for only saying that she's not going without Fiyero, because she wouldn't know that Fiyero is in actual danger with the fact that he's just like held up Glinda and like is fighting against the guards and whatever. But I do wish that all three of them had just gone off together, and you know, then Fiyero could have found some nice handsome farmhand after they've like saved everybody, and Glinda and Elphaba could have lived together. But whatever, it's okay. I understand. It's fine. So Fiyero has basically sacrificed himself at this point. The guards take him to a nearby cornfield to torture him. Elphaba runs to her castle, which I think is like Fiyero's, maybe. Anyway, she goes to the castle to try and like get the grimoire out and try to help him. She starts casting this spell, basically is like, make sure that no matter what happens, he doesn't die, he isn't hurt, he can't feel pain. And then she thinks that she's like failed in this, and then she sings No Good Deed, and basically is like, if I'm going to be wicked, then let me show you wicked, okay? So she has like fully kind of gone to the side where she's like, I've tried my best. I've tried my best to be good. I've tried my best to help the animals. Everything I've tried, including helping Bok, has come to nothing. You guys just clearly see me as wicked. Nothing I do works. I will just be wicked then. Great. I like the idea of like getting a little bit more of this, of both Glinda and Elphaba kind of falling more into the grey side of things, and us really kind of seeing like, oof, yes, you are like, yeah, you're both kind of like understanding that you are like, I mean, we already know that they're not like purely good people, they're not purely bad people, but I really like the idea of like really leaning more into that, of like, yes, they are grey characters, they're morally grey characters, let's dig into it. So then meanwhile, citizens of Oz and Bok prepare to march on the castle. We have like March of the Witch Hunters, and then seeing this, Glinda is like, I have to try and save Elphaba one last time. She travels to Elphaba's castle and she tries to beg her to be like, because at this point she has Dorothy. So we all see this kind of like off screen that Dorothy has come to the castle in the meantime with all of this. Glinda has come to the castle. She's like, please just let Dorothy go. We can maybe make this all work. Elphie refuses. And then they sing for good. And my heart cracks and breaks and I'm a mess. I am really looking forward to this. I'm very excited to see how it goes. It's going to be really, really sad. This is the point where Elphaba is basically like, I am limited in what I can do. I've finally seen it.
I'm limited. Just look at me. I'm limited. You can do all I couldn't do.
And so she's like, now it's up to you. For both of us, you have to do it. You have to carry on. And that is when Glinda is basically like, I love you and you are my favorite. In more or less words than that. But basically she's like, I will read the lyrics in case you don't know. And I will try not to cry this time. And we will see how we go. I'm not as hormonal. I'm post-period. So we'll see how we do. So Glinda says, I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow, if we let them and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because of you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun.
Like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood.
Who can say if I've been changed for the better, but because I knew you.
I have been changed for good.
And then Elphaba sings,
It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime.
because of course at this time she knows that she's going to fake her own death and never see Glinda again, which I'm still bitter about, but anyway, we'll talk about that later. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learnt from you.
You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart.
Gay. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend, lover, girlfriend, person I love most of the world. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better, but because I knew you, and then both of them, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And that's really beautiful and like a love confession, and also a confession of the fact that you are basically going to die here, and like that really sucks and is really sad. But also then they both ask for forgiveness for everything they've done and are basically like, none of it matters anymore. Basically, we love each other and that is what really matters. We have been changed by knowing one another for good, fundamentally, like a handprint on my heart. You are with me till the end. And then I just think maybe, I mean, look, Ariana said that these scenes were very hard to film. I know I'm going to cry. I know I'm going to be in floods of tears. I am like, could there possibly be a little kiss in there? Maybe. Would it make me cry even more? Probably. Yeah, I'm excited and scared. I'm scaresighted. I'm worried, and I'm also like, please, 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 please make it gay. That's all I ask. Is it too much to ask? Maybe. But I would really like it if you did. Please. I will pay you $5 shiny to make it really gay. And does that not appeal? Filmmakers who have already made the movie? Come on. I'm manifesting it, okay? I'm manifesting that it's already happened and it's edited and it's gay. I think Ariana has played her as a closeted lesbian. I think that she knows that. And so maybe she steps out of the closet. Maybe Elphie also is like, I think we're still going to get a bittersweet ending. I do think also, sidebar, but just to quickly go back to this kind of the whole situation, I kind of wonder whether Fiyero and Bock are going to like interact as the Woodman and the Scarecrow, because they don't in the musical. It kind of makes sense that Fiyero doesn't like say to Bock like to kind of like clear up the misunderstandings about it being Elphaba's fault that he's the Tin Woodman. But it doesn't really make sense in a full film version. So I think it'd be really interesting to see. I don't believe that we're going to get Bock changing heart and like, you know, being in on the faking the death thing like some people have said. I just don't think that Bock has been set up to be that character. But I do think it's possible that we'll get a conversation of Fiyero trying to be like, hey, Elphaba is kind of misunderstood, and Bock being like, she's a bitch, I don't like her, and Fiyero trying to be like, ma, but please, like, there's more to this than you understand, and Bock basically just being like, don't want to hear it. And I just think that could be really fun and interesting. So then again in the musical, the mob arrives, Elphie forces Glinda into the closet, lol, and then while she's hiding, Dorothy throws the bucket of water over her and she watches her best friend die, she thinks. So she's not sure what's happened. She's seen Elphaba melt. All she knows is that she sees this little green vial, the one that we see in the first one, and she picks it up. She mourns Glinda's death. She goes back to tell the wizard to leave Oz. Editing May here. I just realized that I put in the point about the vial and then I didn't explain why that was important. So before the wizard actually leaves, he sees the green vial and he makes the connection that it was his, and he is actually Elphaba's father. He mourns, he grieves because he realizes that he has just killed his own daughter, and then he leaves to go back to Kansas. So anyway, it's not super important, but it's like, obviously it's a bit of a twist plot point. And I don't think I have any thoughts on predictions of why that might change. No, I don't. Okay, moving on. She sends Morrible to prison, and then she prepares to face the citizens of Oz, by which I mean we return to the first scene of the first film. I'm really, really excited to see the like kind of prior to No One Wants the Wicked. I think it'd be really interesting to see what Ariana does with that. I think it's gonna be really sad. I'm excited. I also wonder whether they're going to keep Madame Morrible's fate the same. Like, are they just going to throw her in prison, or is it going to be a bit darker than that? I don't think there'll be an execution or anything like that because it is still a PG-13 film. But like, maybe she's, I don't know, like dragged through the street, or like there's sort of a, you know, Cersei shame, shame, shame kind of situation. I don't know, something fun. I would like to see a little bit darker and not just a like, oh, I'll go to prison and then it's all good. I also think the wizard's downfall could be more interesting. Maybe it's more of a like banishing him from Oz rather than just a like, go home in your balloon. Maybe we'll get extra scenes of all of that. And yes, I think we'll get a repeat of the No One Wants the Wicked scene, and we'll see like more of what Glinda is really feeling. So we'll kind of like, we'll get like the reality of that, because it was like almost like, obviously if you hadn't seen the musical and you'd gone into it, you might have like seen that scene as like just face value and being like, oh my god, she loves it, she's so glad that the witch is dead. Whereas now we know, and we have seen all of it, and we have seen like her actually reacting to Elphaba's death and the grief and everything like that. I mean, I just think that would be a really good scene, and I'm excited. So meanwhile, back at the castle, Dorothy's friend the Scarecrow, aka Fiyero, opens up a trapdoor that we have previously not seen, and Elphaba emerges, and we realize that she faked her own death. And she is like, oh, I regret that I'm never going to see Glinda again, but anyway. And so she and Fiyero leave, and basically that is the end of what we know about Elphaba, which I have thoughts on, but we will finish this quickly.
You know, like a liar.
So at the same time, Glinda tells the people of Oz that the Wicked Witch is dead. Everybody's celebrating. She leaves to go and mourn quietly. Fiyero and Elphaba leave, as I say, and they all sing the finale, which is basically all of the crowd singing No One Mourns the Wicked reprise, and Glinda singing For Good, Who Can I Say If I've Been Changed for Better, and Elphaba joining in. But because I knew I've been changed for good, once again showing that no matter what anybody argues, this is not about a love story between Elphaba and Fiyero. It is a love story between Glinda and Elphaba. If you are ending the musical on a song about the two of you and nothing to do with Fiyero, I just don't understand why you wouldn't make it gay. I just don't understand. But anyway, it's fine. My thoughts. Okay, first of all, we know that there's going to be a second Elphaba song. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. I would like there to be another one about her regret about Glinda, rather than just going off into the sunset with Fiyero. Honestly, I kind of wonder if we're going to change the ending a bit to leave it a little bit more hopeful. I think very obviously we have to have Glinda believe that Elphaba is dead initially. She can't go into No One Mourns the Wicked knowing that Elphaba is alive. So she has to have seen her melt, believe that she is dead, and Elphie has to have initially faked her death without telling Glinda. That has to happen. But I just don't think it makes narrative or character sense for Elphie to just leave. I don't think it is a good character arc. I think it's lame that basically she is like, I have spent all of this time growing as a character to the point where I am like defying gravity and defying the strictures that are put on me, and I'm a good person and I'm going to go and help these animals despite how much it might fuck up my whole life. She has been doing this for years. Yes, I understand that she is like, I've tried all of this, it hasn't worked, and like, you know, things have gone really bad and nobody likes me. That sucks. But that is a return character arc. That is a negative character arc.
But not a single one of the sparkling hundreds that enjoyed his hospitality attended the funeral. And from Daisy, not even a flower. I was all he had.
May she wake in torment.
I will do whatever you ask.
Because basically what that means is that she's gone from nobody likes me and I can't do anything to I'm going to try to do what I can to fix things, to nobody likes me and I can't fix anything, so fuck it, I'm going to go and live a soft life with my boyfriend in the forest. What the fuck does that mean? Nothing. It's shit. It's a shit narrative arc. I don't care about the like whether or not you have Glinda in this. That is a crap narrative arc. Sorry. I think that there could be much more interesting stuff going on. I think Elphaba is a more interesting character than that. She deserves better. So I think it just doesn't make sense for her character to have basically been like, fuck the animals, I don't really care. It's up to you, Glinda, now. I'm going to go off and like live my soft life with my boyfriend. And also not going to tell my best friend who I've like, you know, just had this beautiful song with that I'm actually not dead. Like, why would what reasoning would she have for not telling Glinda that she faked her death? It doesn't make any sense to not tell her eventually. Because, like, she'll eventually find out that Morrible is imprisoned and the wizard is gone. So why would it make any sense for her not to tell Glinda? Don't get it. Unless she's, like, punishing her, and we know that she's not because we've ended it on the, you know, return to for good. She obviously still loves her, romantically or not. Why would she be punishing her by making her live out the rest of her life with neither of the people who she trusted the most in the world, thinking that her best friend has died and that her fiancé has been tortured to death in a cornfield, and now that she has to just like continue to rule Oz alone. What a crap ending. I get that it's bittersweet, but my god, this is still a kids' movie. Can we not have a little lightheartedness, please? So, I wonder if there'll be a song after she's faked her death and that she and Glinda will reunite later. Like, maybe we'll have a post-credit scene or something. We do know that there's going to be a third movie. It's not going to be a continuation of Wicked. So whether it's like based more on the books where we have like Lear, who's Elphaba's son, who knows? But I mean, it'll be interesting because if they do the Lear stuff, like in the book, Elphaba does actually die. So it's like, it wouldn't really make sense if she's still alive for that to happen. So who knows? For Elphaba's song, maybe it's not even that they do reunite. Maybe it's just Elphaba thinking about them reuniting. Like the possibility that she could reunite with Glinda. Maybe she finds out about Morrible and the wizard and is like, maybe we do have an opportunity now. You're in this position of power. I could return to you and we could work together for good. We have a callback to for good already in the finale. Why not make it bigger? Why not make it better? Why not make it gayer? Just a thought. Or what if we have a duet? What if we have like a split screen? Glinda's mourning, Elphaba is also mourning, but you know, in a different way. We have a callback to the split screen in What Is This Feeling? I don't know, I just think that that could be really interesting. They're in these two different locations, they're longing, they're sad, they're angry. I'm crying just thinking about it. Crying internally, as you could tell, because I'm not right now. I'm in a really happy mood. But I will be crying if something like that happens. And I will come on here and I'll show you my tears. But yeah, I think that there'll be at least a post-credits scene where they show that Glinda knows. I just think it would be too strange not to tell her. I always thought that it was like a plot hole because it didn't make sense for her not to tell Glinda. If she was really alive, like it made sense in the book because she actually died. it doesn't make like character sense, like I say, for her to just be like, peace, I'm off to go and like have sex with my boyfriend. It's just like, you still care about the animals, right? Like, you're not, what happened to that? Why would she not have like a little moment where she's like, Glinda, hey, still alive, and also can we like maybe do something about these animals? Like, you're now in this much better position. I don't understand. I just think that that's going to change. Fingers crossed, because I think it just kind of has to. And so my final kind of general notes on predictions. I'm very concerned that this video is going to be really long. I've been filming for an hour and 40 minutes already, so we'll see. I don't really think I've even repeated any stuff, so like this is going to be long again. Anyway, my final kind of thoughts and predictions in just a general sense. I think that Glinda's arc, I hope we're going to lean into kind of a more like tragic queer narrative, that we are going to see her as this closeted lesbian character. I think it's going to be more clear. I don't think that Elphaba and Glinda are going to end up together. As I say, not delusional. I do think that we are going to lean more into that. We already know that Glinda doesn't love Fiyero. That's been made pretty clear, I feel. And I just think that like it would be so good if they just like lean into the kind of like sapphic yearning, loneliness, her regret, her devotion to the memory of Elphaba, and her regret around her lack of usefulness. I just think it sounds sapphic and gay, and I love it. I know it's kind of unlikely given the story arc, but I'm like, maybe they'll like kind of lean into some of Fiyero's bisexual energy a little bit. That could be fun. Just, you know, to be honest, as I talk about it, I'm like, I just don't really care about Fiyero that much anymore. I think I started and was like, I love Fiyero, he's lovely, and like I do think that I believe that like, you know, Elphaba has two hands and she could be with both of them. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, as I say, I like Jonathan Bailey, he's great, but I'm just like, he's sort of a nothing character. Do we really care? He's just there to make sure that we like don't see Elphaba and Glinda as gay. Like, he's just there to be like, I promise they're straight. And it's like, just go and make out with that guy who you like did the little head move on thing. He would love it. And I mean, yes, you wouldn't grow as a person, probably. I don't know, maybe he's really into animal welfare and he could teach you some stuff. I'm just saying, I'm a bit over fear and I just don't really care that much. Other thoughts that I have. Maybe we have a secret letter between Glinda and Elphaba at the kind of beginning to show that they have been kind of working together. Maybe there's something to show like that Elphaba did reach out. Maybe it's even to show that Elphaba did reach out and Glinda turned her down and like didn't give her the information that she needed, or like was a bit useless. And then we can be like really clear on the fact that Glinda was actually useless, because I don't think we're clear enough on that to be able to make that call. But like if we want to sort of villainize Glinda and make her a little bit more grey, maybe we do that. That could be interesting. And I like the idea of secret romantic letters. Fun. I kind of wonder whether Glinda will wear more like dark costuming to show subtly that she's grieving Elphaba. Like particularly if she, I mean, like I think it would be fun and sad, but fun and sad if she was doing that like during the period when like Elphaba's off hiding. And then we can see that Glinda is like, I mean, you know, I noticed that when in the first movie, when they go to the Emerald City for the first time and we hear like One Short Day, Glinda is wearing a pink version of Elphaba's outfit. And it's like, such cute symbolism, love it. Such good costume designing, love it so much. So I'm like, what if she does like something similar? Maybe that could even be it. Maybe she's not wearing like darker colors, but she's wearing like more outfits that are like representative of Elphaba's old outfits to show that she's still thinking of her. And like, yeah, just some thoughts that I had, but I like it. I thought that could be fun. And also just her kind of like political rise. I think like diving into her like loneliness, her guilt, that could be really fun. as I say, I also would really, really love to see Elphaba and her like experiences with the animals. I want there to be more of that. We're having like such a long time skip. I think that we should really show that she's in there, she's having these like relationships with the animals, but also like finding difficulty with that because they've all kind of like run away and they don't really trust her either, and that's one of the reasons why she's not that successful. I just like, yeah, I want to see all of that. Like, I want to see it in scenes, not just like talked about. And I understand why they can't really do that on stage because it's just like too much stuff. But I'm like, we have this extended period, we have like, you know, more of an opportunity to do these scenes. I also wonder if we might see Dulcibert again, because we have like such a lot of her in the first movie. I'm like, it'd be really interesting to see her. How sad would it be if she was like one of the animals who has like lost the ability to speak or something, and Elphaba is like finds her and they like have this connection. Maybe she like teaches her to speak again by like their connection and her memory of like raising her as her child, basically. And it'd be like a really beautiful mother-daughter moment. I'm excited, basically. And I don't have any more to say, I think, but we'll see. This was really meant to just be quite short, so I apologize. I hope that this was interesting to some people. I do hope that people still want to watch stuff about Wicked. I'm like, you know I do, so I am hopeful that people will still want to watch it. Anyway, I am really thankful if you've gotten this far into the video, i.e. the end. Then thank you so much for watching all of it, and or skipping ahead. I don't really care. Either way, glad to have you here. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you would like to see more. If you would like to see more, I have other videos on my channel. Please go check out the first video about Wicked if you haven't seen it already. I've also made a video about Idina Menzel and why I think that she's a gay icon. I've also made one about Jane Austen, but it's very niche and I think that not many people are going to watch it. That's fine. As I said earlier, I am planning on making some more videos about kind of some more like broader topics, not coming back to Wicked again for a while, unless anybody would like me to return to anything and you have any ideas about what you would like me to speak about. Please let me know in the comments if you would. I would like to do something about Sex and the City. Kind of thinking about doing something about How I Met Your Mother, which is basically a hate watch for me, but could be fun. And I am deep in the whole Dylan O'Brien thing at the moment with his like film that came out at Sundance and the leaks and stuff, and I would really like to maybe do a like what happened there kind of video, but also want to do my Steric retrospective, which I talked about in the beginning. Let's see, maybe I might have cut that because I think I rambled a little bit. I really want to talk about Interview with the Vampire. Maybe It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. If anybody has anything that they're like, oh my god, I really want to hear you talk about that, please let me know. Would love to hear from you. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!